All right, welcome back to Bag Talk. Looking at the divisional round this week, it is January 9th, 2020, episode 4. We got a lot of stuff's happened in the NFL, a lot of big things, a lot of very historically important things, a lot of things that I don't really get right now. So just real quick, just a recap of the past weekend of the divisional round. Two pretty huge upsets. The Patriots lose at home to the Tennessee Titans despite giving up only 75 yards passing. Derrick Henry runs like a man through the Patriots defense, which people told me it was historically one of the best defenses of all time. So maybe they had to have been wrong, right? If somebody's running for nearly 200 yards against one of the greatest defenses of all time, right? The Texans came back from 16 points down to beat the Bills in overtime. The Seahawks chief-shotted Carson Wentz out of the game early on, and a hit that I don't know how Jadeveon Clowney isn't suspended for the rest of the playoffs for that hit. They hold on against the Eagles, who are led by Josh McCown. DK Metcalf has a huge day, 160 yards on 7 receptions. So the Seahawks move on. And then the biggest playoff upset I can remember since probably maybe the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, maybe the Seahawks Saints divisional round game of the Beastquake, was the Vikings going to New Orleans and beating the Saints in a game that was in overtime, but really the Vikings dominated this game. Drew Brees looked bad. The Vikings defense looked incredible. Mike Zimmer coached circles around Sean Payton. It was incredibly surprising. Kirk Cousins didn't lose this game for the Vikings, which I think is going to give people a little false sense of security for him come the divisional round. Got that out of the way. We got some coaching hires in the NFL. Panthers hire Matt Rule from Baylor University, 7 years, $60 million. Plus incentives. He's expected to fill out his staff this week. He has let most of the assistants know that they will not be retained, according to reports. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting hire. I think he looks like the way he speaks and the way he kind of works, it seems like he would be a very good NFL head coach. He had a very preachy intro press conference, though, so we'll see how that goes. The Cowboys fired Jason Garrett and hired Mike McCarthy, who's really just fat Jason Garrett. I don't like the hire at all. I think as the Cowboys, they should have been able to find something better. But Jerry Jones probably found a guy that's going to be another yes man. So good for him. Congratulate him on not winning more Super Bowls. Good for him. Kellen Moore stays on as offensive coordinator. Mike Nolan, former 49ers coach, hired as D coordinator. Another former 49ers coach, Jim Tomsula, hired as the defensive line coach. But yeah, I mean, it's a good staff right now, but I think this is probably the second worst hire of the coaching carousel, which brings us to the worst hire, which is the New York Giants hiring the Patriots wide receivers coach and special teams coordinator Joe Judge. And it's a guy that's coached under Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Again, you couldn't find a better coach. It's another one of those things where the 4 coaches I've talked about getting hired are all white. Eric Bieniemy, it looks like, isn't going to get a job again, which is a real shame. I think Eric Bieniemy deserves to have a head coaching job. Chris Richard, the Cowboys D coordinator, I'm shocked he didn't get any looks this year after what he's done with that Cowboys defense last year and this year by injuries. Yeah, it's just one of those things where how everything is involved. I can't believe minority coaches aren't getting more of a chance in the NFL. And there is still one head coaching job open, which is the Browns' job. And it really looks like they're trying to take their time, which must mean if they're taking this long, it's got to mean that their guy is still coaching in the playoffs. You look at the guys that they'd be looking at are still coaching. It's Kevin Stefanski, the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. It's Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. It's Eric Bieniemy, maybe, hopefully. I hope Eric Bieniemy gets a job. I think the Bengals should have hired him last year. Yeah, we'll see. Those are the head coaching changes right now. So let's get in, and it just got reported that Mike Leach got hired by Mississippi State, which opens up the Washington State job, and also closes the last year open job in the SEC. It really makes it interesting with all the guys you have coaching the SEC now: Lane Kiffin, Ed Orgeron, Mike Leach. There's a whole lot of characters in the SEC right now, which is good to see. It's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of funny exchanges between Kiffin and Mike Leach. But I think Leach will probably coach there for about 7 years, probably get like 1 9-win year, and the rest of the years will be 5 or 6 wins. He'll probably lose a couple games to the Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Monroe. He'll probably lose a game to Southern Miss at some point. But then he'll have games where they play close against Alabama, they play close against LSU, they beat Ole Miss. It'll be touch and go for a lot of that, I think. And now we get into the batch of divisional playoff games. It's a big Saturday for me. I'll get into it. If they win, I'll get into it more. 49ers and Ravens both play on Saturday. The first game is at 4:35. Vikings 49ers in Santa Clara, California at Levi Stadium. The 49ers open as 7.5 or 7-point favorites, just like the Saints were last week. They are 40. The over-under is 44.5. I think the 49ers are going to come into this, and I know I said last week about the Saints going to blow them out, but 49ers are younger. They're not going to have that bad game. I think their offensive line's better. And if Jimmy Garoppolo has a bad game, the 49ers can run the ball right down the Vikings' throats. Justin Wilson, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman. They got 3 guys that have over 500 yards rushing. All of them have over 120 carries this year. Coleman and Moser have 6 and 8 touchdowns respectively. So there's a lot they can do a lot on offense. Jeff Wilson has 4 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel, the wide receivers, got 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, this is an offense that Kyle Shanahan has it going full tilt right now. I think he's one of the best head coaches in terms of offensive game plan. He's probably the best head coach in football right there with McVay and Greg Roman, who's the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. I think he's right up there with those guys in terms of game planning and offense. He's not going to beat himself. He's focused on running the ball a whole lot this year, which I like. And they have a big, strong offensive line. It's Joe Staley, Mike McGlinchey, just a whole lot of very good players on the San Francisco 49ers. And then if the running game doesn't go their way, Jimmy Garoppolo can throw the ball. Got just a hair under 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 102. He has 4 game-winning drives, 4 fourth-quarter comebacks. The receivers, Emmanuel Sanders has been a revelation since he got there. He's been their go-to out-wide guy. But their passing game starts and ends with George Kittle, 85 receptions, 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. He does it all. He's the number one guy. He's the Rob Gronkowski of the offense, where if they get in doubt, that's who they're going to draw up a play to get the ball to. Then you got some younger players. You got Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, Marquise Goodwin. The running backs out of the backfield, Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, Kyle Juszczyk, who's a big-time fullback. Like, do a lot of stuff with him. They like to have him lead block. He does have 20 receptions for 200 yards this year also, and a touchdown. They like to run him on wheel routes out of the backfield, getting the ball short, let him run the ball on the catch. So, yeah, I think their offense is good. Where their bread, for the most part this year, has been buttered is their defense, which means second in yards, 8th in points allowed. It starts with the defensive line. Nick Armstead, Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, D Ford. D Ford, who is back this week from injury. Fred Warner's a linebacker I like to blitz with a lot. D Ford, DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa, and Eric Armstead all have 6 or more sacks. So they can bring it from everywhere. Bosa's been incredible this year, forcing fumbles, getting after he should be the defensive rookie of the year in the league. And then if you take a step back from that front line, Fred Warner, Derek Greenslaw, Quan Alexander's back this week also, which is a huge get. He's veteran from Tampa Bay. He was the leading tackler this year until he got hurt. He's back. Derek Greenlaw and Fred Warner are 23 and 22 respectively. Warner led the team in tackles. Greenlaw finished second. So it's that, and then you go back another level, and you have Richard Sherman, who's one of the best defensive backs the last 15 years. He's been revitalized. He's got 3 interceptions. He's shutting down the best receiver on the other team. Jimmy Ward is a good safety and defensive back. He can do whatever you want him to. Quan Williams has been very good this year as a slot defensive back, covering. He'll be the guy that they probably will put on running back out of the backfield, or Adam Thielen. Emmanuel Mosley, Akela Witherspoon at safety has been an impact player for him. And all these guys are back. This is really the first time in weeks that the 49ers defense has been fully healthy. D. Ford's playing his first game in a couple weeks. Julian Taylor, defensive tackle. Jakaris Tart, who's their strong safety, playing his first game in a couple of weeks. Everybody's back, which is good. And I think that they're gonna kind of rip the wheels off this 49ers Cinderella wagon and turn it back into a pumpkin. Rip out the Minnesota Vikings. The 49ers are going to blow the Vikings out. I think the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl, personally. I think they do all the things you need to do in the playoffs to win. They run the ball. They play defense, which is what the Vikings do also. But the 49ers have the ability to turn the ball over, force the opposition to turn the ball over, which Kirk Cousins has been obliged to do in the past in the playoffs. I mean, he finally, for the first time in his career, had a good game. But this is a playoff game. It's going to be closer to nighttime, so Kirk Cousins is going to have that bell going off in his head that he's got to give the ball to the other team. He's got to turn the ball over. So yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers in the points. I'm also going to take the over. So that's that first game, 49ers -7, and the over 44. Second game tonight is the other game I have a rooting interest in. It's the Titans and the Ravens. Titans ended the Patriots dynasty. As much as Patriots fans don't want to